Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. In this lesson, we take a big step forward in shaping the foundation of our beautiful swing coat. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the various darts and their placement and help you to understand why we're putting them where we are. The second thing that I'm going to show you is how to baste together those beautiful canvases, the body canvas, the chest canvas, and the domette, and how I'm going to add a little bit of ease to those three layers so that they work in harmony with one another. And finally, I'm going to share my techniques on how to pad stitch the canvas to build in roll and structure for our beautiful garment. This is where we start taking a flat piece of cloth and giving it its shape and form. It's so exciting. I'm glad you're here. You won't want to miss this one. So we have 4 darts that we're putting into this canvas, all right? But before we get started on that, let's just have a real quick review here. This is the right side of my canvas, okay? And so here, we're just going to draw in. We have our break line, so you can see that nice and clear, hopefully. My beautiful blue chalk, okay? We came back 1 centimeter so that we wouldn't, our chest canvas and the domette wouldn't impede the break line. So right now we look like that, okay? Let's get some of this stuff out of the way. All right, so what we want to do is I'm just going to extend our button position all the way over. We're going to call that our waist. Okay, so we've got our waist here. And we would also have our chest. Let's just make sure that we're spot on here. Right? So our chest ends right under our arm side. Okay? So our chest would extend across here like this. Now it's important to know where the chest is, because whether you're making a jacket for a man or a woman, it makes no difference. The whole idea of putting darts into the canvas is to give the jacket the shape, right? And so those darts that we're putting in the canvas are actually bigger than the darts that are on the jacket cloth itself, and that's to create that shape. But whether you're a man or a woman, we're emphasizing the chest because that's the most predominant part of a jacket is the chest area, right? And if you're a man, and if you think about, the type of tailoring I do is British bespoke. And so if you think about where British bespoke came from, it came from making all those beautiful military uniforms for the English or the British Army, right? And what did they want to do? They wanted to, basically give the soldier very wide shoulders, right? And then a very small or thin, waistline. So it made them look very big and strong and powerful, right? And that's British bespoke. It's very built out because of that. And so that's when we're working on these garments today. It's the same thing. I don't know a man that wouldn't want to have a broad chest and a slim waist when he puts on a jacket, right? Same thing with a woman. We'd like to have that very beautiful hourglass shape. And that's what we're trying to do. And in a nutshell, that's what we are doing by shaping this chest canvas, all right, is in putting those darts in. It's giving that illusion, or maybe it's real. I don't know. For me, it's an illusion. For everybody else, it might be real, okay? All right, so we're putting 4 darts, okay, in. And we're going to need the help of our jacket here to do that, okay? The first dart that we're going to put in is going to be our 4-part dart. So let me get our jacket here, and let's line this up. Because the darts have to work in harmony, okay? Have to work in harmony with the cloth, okay? So let's make sure we're all in line here. Okay, my break line looks okay, but for some reason, I need to correct my button position, so that's not a big deal. Let's fix that. That is right there. Okay, so we're just going to move that button position up a little bit. For some reason, I don't know why that happened, but we'll fix it. Okay, easy breezy. Get that taken care of. All right, so let's line our jacket up here on our canvas and make sure it's laying out here nicely. Looks beautiful, okay? Break lines in line, they're working in harmony together. Yes. Yes, here we go. Yes, all right. Very good. Very good. All right, very good. Okay, so if you look, I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is where my 4-part dart is right here, okay? So if I just turn this back, okay, and I mark that right here so I can see it, okay, that's where we want our first dart to go, okay? That's one. The other thing, the other dart we're going to have is we're going to have an arm side dart. So it's going to be a dart that literally comes from the armhole area into the jacket, okay? And it's going to give shape as well. But this is not where my armhole ends, right? On my jacket, it's sitting up here a little bit further. So I'm just going to chalk this in with my blue chalk here so that we know where our arm side is, okay? All right. So that's good. And if I get my ruler here, I can just very quickly bring this in like so. Okay? Like that. All right. Very good. Okay. And then finally, we're going to be putting in a gorge dart, which is going to run through the lapel. Now, my lapel is 13 centimeters wide, okay? From the break line, I measure out 13 centimeters here, all right? And so when you're making a gorge dart, the gorge dart is half that length. So it's going to be, or at least the middle where the gorge dart starts is going to be in the middle, okay? And I have to come down here 2 centimeters because I have 2 centimeters of inlay, all right? So we've got that. So here, let's correct this. This is our real waistline here, not that. We'll just cross that out for now. All right, so here our main dart, our 4-part dart, is going to run at an angle, okay, from where it ends on the jacket out here to the waistline, all right? Our gorge dart, same. We're aiming for, if you can imagine, what we're doing is we're aiming for the middle of the chest right here. That's where we really want the shape to be, okay? So if we aim our gorge dart in that same direction, okay? I'll just draw a line out there. Don't know how long I want it right now, but that's okay. All right, so there's my gorge dart. And then finally here, my arm side dart is going to come up 7.5 centimeters, okay, from my chest, all right? And this dart is only 8 centimeters long. So I'm going to aim it towards the middle of the chest again, but that's only 8 centimeters long, all right? And it's only 1 centimeter wide. And we actually bring the dart down. All right, we bring it down 1 centimeter. So that one's easy. That one's real easy, okay? If we look at the gorge dart and the 4-part dart, we have to use, I guess, our experience when it comes to tailoring, okay? So if you look at my physique, I'm not a very buxomous young lady, okay? Thank goodness. All right. I'm average. All right. So we don't have to do anything drastic with these darts. In fact, the 4-part dart, we can double it. And that's all we need to do. The 4-part dart on my jacket is 1.5 centimeters. So I'm just going to double this dart and make it 3 centimeters. Okay. And the length is already dictated by where the dart ends. So I'm just going to bring this up 3 centimeters here. All right. And the same thing with the gorge dart, right? I'm not very buxom, so I don't need a huge gorge dart. The gorge dart, basically what it does is, because it runs through the break line, right? It helps, it's a really beautiful thing. It actually will help the break line curve out, right? It kind of curves the break line out, and it gives the illusion of a bigger chest, all right? So you can use a gorge dart on your chest canvas. You can also use it on your cloth. If you're working with a gentleman who maybe has a very small chest, or maybe he has a little bit of a belly, and because of that, his chest kind of caves in because his belly sticks out, okay? You can use a gorge dart, and it's a wonderful, wonderful way to give more of a chest, physique in the jacket. So it's not just for women. It actually is used quite a bit in men's jacketing as well. All right, but for this dart, I think I'm just going to make it. A 2 centimeter dart, and I think I'm going to keep this dart length kind of reasonable here. So I think I'm going to make it about 14 centimeters long. So it's not impeding into the chest, but it's coming far enough into the chest that it's actually going to make a difference here. Okay. So I'll make it 14 centimeters long, and I'm going to make it 2 centimeters wide. So it's going to be 1 centimeter on either side here, like so. Okay. And that's going to be our gorge dart. So we've mapped all these out. Now, the thing that's really also important to note, okay, is when I put this jacket on, all right, this is how the canvas is going to sit on me, all right? So what I've actually done is I've marked all of my canvas darts on the side that I'm going to be able to see, because when we put in our chest canvas and our domette, they sit towards the body. All right. So I always want to mark all of my darts, okay, where I can see them, or on the outside of the canvas. And that's really important. If you mark them on the inside of the canvas and then you cover them up, yeah, you can see that's going to be a problem. Okay. Logically a problem. All right, so those are the easy ones. The next one that we have to tackle is the shoulder dart. Now we're putting a shoulder dart in, and what we're doing is we're actually cutting the canvas open. We're cutting a slit in the canvas and opening it up, all right? The shoulder dart is going in both the body canvas and the chest canvas, so they work in harmony with one another, okay? So we're gonna map that out, and I'm going to show you how to cut it on both the body canvas and the chest canvas, and how to actually sew them together. All right. So we're going to tackle that real quick next. So let's bring our coat front back into the mix here. Let's get it lined up once again very nicely, because what I have to do is I have to mark my shoulder position. Okay. I have to mark my shoulder position in the jacket here. So I have to put this guy in, and then I have to bring this in, which, where is my neckline here? There we go. So that's going to sit like that. Okay. Very nicely. And I don't know if you can see the details on here or not, but this has a 1 centimeter seam, so it's going to sit like that. And here I can just chalk in my neckline, or excuse me, my shoulder line here. Okay, so this is my right shoulder line, which sits a little lower than my left shoulder line, okay? All right, very good. So now we can put that aside. All right, so I'm just gonna swing this around a little bit so I can work a little bit more efficiently here, okay? All right, so what we have to do is we have to mark this shoulder dart in, okay? This dart sits 7.5 centimeters out from our break line. The break line kind of runs off of here a little bit. So let's get that, just draw it on the table. It's easy enough. All right, so we're here at 7.5 centimeters, okay? Now, this is a little tricky because this dart needs to be exactly the same length as the dart on the left side, okay? 7.5, but because my shoulder line sits lower on my right side than it does on my left, okay? What I have to do is I have to match these guys up, all right? Here's my, I've already cut this side, all right? So if I match these up perfectly here, okay? Now I can mark on here how long or where this needs to stop, okay? Because I don't want the dart to be longer just because my shoulder is sitting lower. They have to be the same, okay? Same thing, same idea with the lapel. Just because my shoulder sits lower doesn't mean that the lapel on my right side should be lower. It would look kind of strange, right? So it all has to be symmetrical is what I'm saying, okay? And again, this dart needs to sit or be parallel to the break line, all right? So it's not 7.5 centimeters long, but it is. It is, but it's not, okay? It's working in harmony with the other side of the jacket, if you will, and I hope that makes sense. All right, so here's, get rid of that. Here's my shoulder line now, yeah? And here's my break line, and this has come over, and this is sitting here very nicely, parallel to the break line, and it is 6.5 centimeters. So at that particular point on my neckline, my shoulder sits 1 centimeter lower than my left side, okay? All right. Okay, so now we have that. Let's do this. I am going to transfer my shoulder line. I'm going to transfer my shoulder dart, okay? I'm going to transfer my break line and my button position all to the other side of my canvas, okay? Okay. Because what we have to do now is we have to cut this open, and then we have to line our chest canvas up and mark and cut that open, okay? So let's put everything in here real nice so we can see it. It's all accurate, okay? Cool, very good. So here, all right, we've got our middle position here. This is coming down, we say 6.5 centimeters, right? Yeah. Okay, very good. So now if we line this up, and again, the other thing we have to remember is that we said we were going to be 7.5 centimeters up from the button position. That's where the chest canvas needs to lay, right there. So we have to line everything up nicely here, you see? Like so, okay? Just like that. All right. Now, if we transfer our line here, so So what's going to happen is this. The body canvas shoulder dart opens 2 centimeters, okay? On the chest canvas, we're going to have 2 1 centimeter darts that open. So they're going to work in harmony with the body canvas, all right? We wouldn't want to have a dart on the body canvas and nothing on the chest canvas because it would just be very restrictive. This way, everything works together. Makes sense, right? So what I'm going to do here, because I have to plot out where I'm going to cut my chest canvas, okay, is I'm going to just draw a line where this cut is going to go, okay? And I'll draw a line as far as the length, okay? And I'll put my shoulder line in here as well. So we know where everything is on the chest canvas, okay? There we go. Excellent. So what we're going to do here, in order to establish this working together in harmony, okay, is I'm going to come over 2.5 centimeters towards my break line. And that's going to be my one other dart right there, okay? And then I'm going to come back, all right, 3 centimeters from the middle, if you will. And that's where my other line is going to be, okay? And they each need to be 6.5 centimeters long, right? That's what we said it was. 6, yeah, 6.5, okay? So they each have to be 6.5 centimeters long. So we've got those darts now marked in beautifully, gorgeously, amazingly, okay? And actually, you know what? I'm just off just a smidge. Hold on here. This stuff is so squiggly. That is what a brush is for. See, it's better to get it right. This chest canvas can be very squiggly. So we're just going to make sure all is well. Let's just go back in and get those lines transferred again. Make sure we're spot on. There. Okay. There. And we're going 2.5 forward. And we're going 3 back. So we're just slightly off. All right, so now that we have everything mapped out and ready to go, we can go ahead and cut these open, okay? So we can cut these open. So this should be 6.5 here, right? So again, I'm not going to use my good scissors because this is canvas. All right, there's that. And then here, we're going to do the same thing. That aside. Just going to measure down my 6.5 centimeters here and here. I got that. Okay. And then we'll cut those open as well. Nice and straight. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So hopefully you can see here what's going to happen. This little guy is going to open up 2 centimeters. And then this is going to be laying on top of it like this. And this is going to open 1 centimeter. And this is going to open 1 centimeter. And they're all going to work very beautifully in harmony with one another to give the top of the shoulder a little bit more movement. All right, now let me show you how we're going to go about opening up this shoulder dart. Remember when I told you don't throw out the scraps from the canvas, okay? I have a piece that I've cut here that's about 16 centimeters by 12 centimeters long and wide, okay? And so this is being the left side of my canvas. This is the outside and this is the inside, all right? So what I want to do is position my canvas with the outside facing me, all right? Because my chest canvas and my domette are going to be sitting on this side, okay? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slide this little scrap under here, okay, this little piece that I cut, and I'm going to line it up with the 1 centimeter line that I drew back from my break line, okay? And what I also want to make sure of is that when I open this up, okay, I've got enough up top here, okay? So in other words, I don't have a big gap in this area. I don't want a gap here, okay? And I have enough at the bottom. So this is lined up. If you pull this back, this is lined up with that line I drew back from my break line, okay? In other words, I don't want this little scrap that's going to support my dart, okay? I don't want it to impede, that great word again, impede on my break line, okay? All right, so I told you we're gonna open this dart this way, all right? But what I wanna do is I wanna sew this first here, and then I wanna give it the support that it needs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start down here at the bottom of my dart, and I'm just gonna tack this off. And what I'm using is just some basting thread. This is gonna be permanent, so it's not coming out. And I'm just basting along the slit that I made, okay? The opening that I made. You know what, just let me get a little pin to hold this on here so it doesn't slip around too much. There we go. Just want that to hold that on. All right. Very good. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a little bit of a back baste. I'm about a 1/2 centimeter off of the slit that I made, okay? Off of the opening. And I'm keeping my little back baste pretty close together here. This is just to hold this down. Keep it nice and straight. Very straight. Okay? Very good. So we'll do that. And then what I'm going to do is when I get up to the top here, I'm actually going to do a bit of a pad stitch to hold this in. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Okay? It's just to hold this whole area in. All right? So I can tack that. And when I'm doing this now, okay, you can see I'm using my basting thread on the single. I'm not doubling it up, okay? And here I'm just going to do, you know, my pad stitch is maybe about 1 centimeter, okay? Or so. That's all. That's all it needs to be, okay? And we're just going to stagger these. I'm going to come out to the end here. And then I'll just jump over a row. And we're just going to stagger this in, okay? That's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to keep this nice and flat. This is important to keep it nice and flat. This area here needs to be the flat. Needs to be flat. We're not opening this up, in other words. We're just supporting. We're putting this piece of canvas in to support this area here, okay? So I'm not making these stitches super small either, okay? I don't want them to be super small. I want them to be like a medium-sized stitch because I don't want this to be tight, okay? I don't want anything on here to be tight. I just want this to add stability so that this, you know, the dart, when we open it, it lasts a long time, okay? But if we make these pad stitches too small and close together and too tight, it's going to be a problem down the road because, again, remember I told you I want things to move together in harmony. I don't want the body canvas and the chest canvas and the domette to they're all squashed together and they don't have any movement. They need that movement. And same here. This little guy that's supporting our dart, it still needs to be able to move, okay, and shift around a little bit. That's why, like I said, I'm not making this super tight and super small stitches, just small, medium size, and pretty loose. Okay, that's it right there. That's our last stitch. We're just going to leave that just like that. Okay? All right, let's get a little bit more thread here. Wonderful. Now, my line is kind of faded a little bit, so let me chalk it back in again. But here's my shoulder line, okay? And so we have to open this up 2 centimeters at the shoulder line. So if I open this here, there's my 2 centimeters right there. Okay, so there's my 2 centimeters. Exactly. So if I want, I can take a little pin and just pin that right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to baste this down about 1/2 centimeter off of the opening. Okay. I'm going to tack this nicely. All right. And just, now that we have that, we can take that pin out. And I'm keeping I'm making a small stitch here, about 1 centimeter. Okay, just to hold it in place. We want to make sure that the dart is straight. Okay, so there's no curve here. If I hold my ruler up to this, it should be nice and straight. It shouldn't curve at all. All right, and it's very important. And we want to keep this area flat. It wants to do this. Don't let it do it. Just hold it nice and flat. Okay? All right. Get any tightness out of there. All right. That's it. So that's it. Half of it. We're half done with this little part here. I am so interested to get your feedback in the comments section below. What do you think of all this? Has it been something you've attempted to do before? I'd love to hear from you and know. All right, I really would. I'm very curious to know if how this is what do you think of all this? Okay, so now we've got that done, and we have to put our chest canvas on this side. This is the side we're going to be working on. So here, what I want to do is I want to get rid of some of this excess canvas. Okay, that we used here. All right. So I'm just going to turn this over, and I want to trim this back nicely here. The one thing that we don't like as tailors is we don't like having rough corners. So I like to just come in here and round these out, round out these corners nice so that they don't end up flipping up, you see? I'm just going to round that out and get rid of that excess. That's much better. Okay? So simple. Very simple. All right, so now that we have that, now we're going to do the same thing with our chest canvas here, okay? We're going to line our chest canvas up like we did before, okay? And we have to make a baste, a baste, a baste, and a baste. And we're going to open these up. But this first one here, okay, this first one here remains flat. All right. So I'm going to start at the top. And if you can see, I've lined this up right with the canvas, right? That canvas lays right 1 centimeter back. So that's lined up right there. Okay. And now I'm going to baste this 1 centimeter off the edge, just like I did the other, or excuse me, ½ centimeter off the edge. This body canvas ends up, it can be a little squiggly. So you really have to work a little bit to make sure that it stays straight. Okay? And we're just going to baste this here. Keep your stitches pretty small, maybe 1 centimeter, no more. Okay? Do a running baste if you want. Okay? Make sure this isn't tight. You can always push a little of that tightness out. And then what we can do here is actually just jump over to the other side. We don't even have to knot it or tack it, okay? Now we want to open, thankfully we can still see our shoulder line here, okay? So we want to, and we're just going to check, but that's spot on with my shoulder line on the other side, as it should be, by the way, as it should be. So what we want to do here now, as I mentioned, these get opened 1 centimeter each, okay? So I open that right there at the shoulder line, 1 centimeter. And I'll just take a little pin again and just pin that so that it stays while I get things started. And again, I just can back baste this way, okay? Again, keeping my stitches pretty small, 1 centimeter, ½ centimeter off the edge, making sure that the dart is opened and is nice and straight. It's very important. Okay? Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. This is how it's done. This is tailoring, baby. We're tailoring. How exciting, yeah? This is such a great part of the process. This is really, you know, where you get to shape. You're creating shape. Like, this is the beautiful part of tailoring right here. It really is. Okay. And so here we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to baste this part down. Really nice. We're going to just tack it here. Okay. And you can do a nice little running baste here. Keep your stitches small and pretty close together. You don't want big gaps in between these stitches, okay? So about 1 centimeter apart and about 1 centimeter long and ½ centimeter apart is basically what we need. All right, perfect. And then again, here, we want to open this up 1 centimeter at the shoulder line. Perfect. Grab a pin. Ah, here we go. All right. And then we're going to baste this down as well. Okay? And in fact, that's fine. Okay? So here we're going to come across, and then I'm just going to baste this up. Do a back baste. Keep it nice and straight. Nice and straight. Okay. All right. Very good. Get rid of that pin. All right. That's all we need to do. Right to there. I probably will graduate a little bit of this so that it's not laying on top of each other. So I might bring this down just a smidgen, okay? All right, so we've got our two canvases brought together here beautifully. This looks great. Now the last thing that we have to do before we start pad stitching is we have to add a little bit of ease in between the chest canvas and the body canvas, okay? So if I look down here, right? Look here, we made this line 7 centimeters up. So all I need is about a ½ centimeter, okay? That's all I need. So if I bring my ruler in, about a ½ centimeter, okay? And I pin it, that's gonna create enough ease. Careful though, you gotta make sure that you bring it up all the way across, all right? That's gonna create enough ease between the chest canvas and the body canvas so that they move together, all right? And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna baste these two pieces together, all right? We'll take this baste out after we finish pad stitching, all right? But for now, we just want to we want to be able to trap that ease we created. So here, all right, we want to keep holding this straight. In fact, if I grab there we go. I'm just going to grab my weight so that I can concentrate on the ease that's here. You see that? Bit of ease? That's it. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm distributing that evenly. Now where I'm going to start is at the bottom of my dart here. And I'm not even going to tack this. I'm just going to leave this loose. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm distributing that little bit of ease here. I've got a longer stitch. I don't need my stitches to be super small, okay? Just going to bring these two together and make sure that ease is sitting nicely. A ½ centimeter is not a lot. It's not a lot, but it's just enough. It's not a lot, but it's just enough to have these two, give these two layers a little bit of movement. Okay? So I'm just coming around the bottom here. Okay? Up and around, just to give this a little support that it needs. Okay? And then I'll just, once again, I'll stop right here at the bottom of my dart. Make sure these stitches aren't tight either. If you get a little tightness, just open it up a bit. You don't want it to be tight. Okay? And then here, I'll just end it right here at the bottom of the darts. That's all you need. Okay? Just like that. Okay, you can even leave that or cut it off. Just cut it off. Okay, done. All right, now that we have that, lovely, we've got a little, you see that little bit of ease in there? You see that? Just that little bit of movement is all we need. It's a beautiful thing. Just that little bit, okay? Make sure you take this pin out too, because you don't want it sticking your client down the road. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, so now our last little bit that we have to do, okay, is we have to add our domette. And again, we're not going to do anything crazy with the domette. We're just going to lay it right on top. We don't want to force it or push it or flatten it because we want it to kind of like just kind of sit there and work with the chest canvas and the body canvas, okay? And I'm going to baste these two together. Again, in the same way, except I'm going to come up here, okay? And I'm going to probably come in here and trim some of this off. It's a little much. I don't want that much all the way up there. And again, I told you we like to graduate things, so I'm probably going to trim some of that off. But I can do that later, okay? So here, again, I'm not even going to tack that. And this is a long basting stitch. It doesn't have to be close and tight together. Just to hold these 2-3 layers together now. Okay? Don't want to push or force the domette. We want to just let it lay there. Let it do its thing. The domette is a very special kind of cloth. It's very soft. It's there to provide some nice padding between the canvases and the body. The only thing that really sits between the domette, between the domette and everything else is the lining, right? So we want that to be soft on our body, for sure. Again, don't let this get tight. If it does, just loosen it up a little, okay? Just let it lay there. And then here, we're just going to come up and over this guy. See how this pops up? We want that. That's that volume, that movement. We want that. In fact, this beautiful little ease that we have here, okay, that we created by opening the dart, that's actually going to work in harmony with our arm side dart, okay? It's all going to work together. And we've got some special little treats in store when we go into canvas. We're actually going to treat that area a little bit more special and create some ease in the arm side in that area when we go to canvas. I'll show that to you. So the really cool thing about tailoring is that it all kind of works together. You do things and it's not just that one area where it's affected. It's carried on throughout the entire jacket, which I always think is pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to leave that. And our next step is going to be pad stitching our beautiful chest piece. Now, I always want to share with you the whys behind tailoring and why we do the things we do. So in this particular case, some of the whys here are really important. So we're going to start, if you remember, we established the arm side dart 7.5 centimeters or 3 inches up from our chest, okay? We're going to do the same thing here, all right? We're going to establish our first row of pad stitches in the same place, okay? 7.5 centimeters up from the chest. And from this point on up, okay, every 1.5 centimeters, we're going to pad stitch a row horizontally, all right? So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to make some guidelines. And if you're just pad stitching for the first time or you're still developing your skills, there is no shame, okay, in giving yourself some guidelines. They actually help you to work more efficiently and more effectively because you can concentrate on actually getting the stitch correct instead of fumbling around and that stitch is not long enough, the other one's too short, whatever, okay? So we're going to do this first. We're going to add these beautiful horizontal lines that are 1.5 centimeters apart. Now you may say, Marlene, Why are we putting them horizontally? All right, because we're going to be putting the ones on the bottom from the arm side dart down vertically, okay? Now, why do we do this? Well, first of all, when we go to pad stitch the lapel, it's going to really help in terms of the roll, okay? And providing some flexibility on the top of the garment. Because you have to think that's where we have a lot of movement. Our shoulders move, our arms move, all of that, okay? But it also has to do with the chest canvases, or the chest canvas domette and all that. It has to work in harmony with the lapel. And eventually we're going to come in here and we're going to be pad stitching this lapel and giving it shape as well, all right? The bottom, we're going to be pad stitching this vertically. Now, why, Marlene, why on God's green earth would we do that? All right, well, first of all, it adds structure, okay? And it also prevents this area of the canvas from really caving in. And so we want to keep, and we don't have as much movement down here as we do on the top, all right? But mostly this is a structural thing. This is to make sure that the canvas, the whole chest canvas, has that beautiful structure down here. It's not going to cave in, and it's going to work in harmony with the remainder of the garment, all right? So those are the reasons why we do what we do. Now, let me show you our pad stitching technique, okay? So where we have a 1.5 centimeter row, okay, or we have a row every 1.5 centimeters, we're also going to have a stitch every 1.5 centimeters, okay? So again, do yourself a favor and give yourself here on this first row a 1.5 centimeter guideline for each stitch. You only have to do it on the first row. You don't have to do it on every row because we're going to be staggering our stitches, okay? So you only have to do it here. Again, if you're new to tailoring or you haven't done a lot of pad stitching, this is a wonderful way to train your eye in terms of space, okay? In terms of space, so that your eye learns to recognize what's a centimeter, what's a, or an inch, or whatever it is that you want to work in. So this helps very much so, okay? So what we're going to do now, think about what we're doing. We're bringing 3 layers of cloth together: the body canvas, the chest canvas, and the domette, all right? And we want to do this in such a way that it's undetectable on the outside of the garment. Because remember, this is going to be laying on my body like this. All the canvas is going to be on the inside, all right? So we want to make sure that when we're pad stitching, we don't have a lot of stitches coming through, all right? So when I pad stitch, I'm not bringing my needle down and up, okay? I'm bringing my needle into the cloth, like boop, just bringing it in like that, okay? So what I'm going to do here really fast is I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring my needle into this very first guideline, okay? I'm pushing it down through all 3 layers. As soon as I feel that needle hit my index finger underneath, I pull it back up, okay? With all 3 layers in my needle, all right? Now, if I check underneath and I look, all I see, and I don't know if you can catch it there, but all you should be able to see is just a little dimple, not the needle, all right? Just a dimple. And then we're going to bring this through. Now, when I pad stitch, I am using basting thread, so this will stay in permanently, all right? I'm using it on a single layer, okay? And I'm not tying or tacking anything off. I'm just letting a little excess hang here, just like that, okay? And now I can move to my next stitch, all right? So here, now, the other thing you want to do is you never want to hold your cloth like this, all right? You never want to crumple things up. You always want to make sure you're respecting the cloth. Otherwise, it will not respect you. It will not. All right. So what we want to do is roll our cloth up in our hand nicely. And then here, what I'm doing, every time I go to do a stitch, I've got my index finger underneath, okay, and my thumb right on top. And I'm smoothing all 3 layers together and then doing my stitch, okay? Now, the reason we do this is because we don't want a lot of puckering or wrinkling between our stitches or between the rows, okay? So here, I'm just going to smooth and stitch, okay? Smooth and stitch. Smooth and stitch all the way up this row, okay? And again, I'm making sure as I come into my cloth that I'm not going on to the outside. Of course, getting a knot is never fun, but that does happen now and then. There we go. Just get him out of there. All right, smooth and stitch, okay? Get that guy out of the way so you can see what we're doing. So smooth with your fingers and stitch, okay? Till we come to the end of the row. And now what we want to do is we want to stagger our stitch, okay? So here's my last stitch here. And what I want to do is when I say stagger, that means I don't want my stitches to line up. I'm going to come in between each of the previous stitches when I pad stitch, okay? And I'm actually going to bring my stitch up to start halfway. So instead of going a full 1.5 centimeters, I'm going 3/4 of a centimeter, all right, to start my next stitch. And then what I want to do is I want to smooth, okay, as I come in here, I'm coming in between, let me get that out of the way, in between this stitch. So here, right in between my last stitch, okay, and I'm going to take my index finger and my thumb and smooth out from the previous stitch to my next row, and then pad stitch. And I'm going to continue doing that. For every row, I'm going to stagger and smooth. So now it becomes smooth, stagger, and stitch. Smooth, stagger, and stitch, baby. That's how you pad stitch, all right? So I'm going to keep going here, all right? And I'm going to work, you know, I'm right-handed, so when you pad stitch, if you're right-handed, you're going to work from from right to left, okay? And it's just the opposite if you're left-handed, all right? Now, once you finish, and I'm not going to sit here and pad stitch this whole canvas because you'll be bored out of your mind, okay? But once you finish the top, you're going to start on the bottom and you're going to do the same exact thing, okay? Except you're going to be working vertically, all right? And you're not going to start and work on one side and go to the other side, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to start in the middle and you're going to work from one side to the other. So for example, if I was going to start pad stitching this, okay, I would start here in the center and I would work up and over and down and over and up and over and down, etc., etc. And when I finish this side, then I would turn it and I would work this way out, okay, towards the break line. All right, so that is our chest canvas all properly put together here. And here is the end result, okay? So when you're all finished, this is what your canvas should look like. You should have your horizontal stitches up top and your vertical stitches on the bottom, all looking beautiful. Listen, if you have any questions or comments regarding this or any video, please leave them in the comments section below. I answer every single one and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me in the Atelier today. If you've been getting value from these lessons, please do like, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And what's going to be happening in next week's lesson? Well, we're going to be taking those canvas darts that we so carefully plotted and planned today, and I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew them to add real shape to the canvas. So that's what's going to be happening next week in the atelier.